SOC 2 compliance just might be the most boring topic on the planet, or I think it's probably at least tied for first. But if you're gonna go after enterprise sales, it's absolutely something you wanna learn about. And in this video, I'm gonna be talking about everything startup founders need to know about SOC 2 compliance. I'm Rob Walling. I've started 6 companies, 5 of them bootstrapped, written 4 books on entrepreneurship, and invested in more than 125 startups. You might be wondering, what is SOC 2 compliance? And it's something that you need if you wanna move upstream to higher and higher ticket enterprise deals. These deals can change your business, right? It's gonna take your growth from growing $20, $50 per account to $500 or $5,000 per account. The thing is, as you go after these larger customers, they have stricter and stricter security policies that you need to adhere to. And so today, I'm gonna dive into SOC 2 compliance. And in order to keep things interesting and on point, I've invited a startup founder friend to join me. His name is Ruben Gomez of Signwell. You've probably heard me mention Signwell many times on this channel, but he received SOC 2 compliance last year. And so while I have theory and research and experience through my portfolio companies, he has actually gone through the process himself. So he's gonna be an invaluable resource for us today. There's quite a few steps to get SOC 2 compliance. There's 2 different types of SOC 2 compliance. You have to hire a CPA to do an audit. There's a lot to it, and that's why we want to give you an overview of the steps in this video. But to get started, I asked Ruben why he considered getting SOC 2 compliant in the first place.
We, being an e-signature solution, we deal with a lot of really private and sensitive data for organizations. Then early on, it was self-serve, but we wanted to reach larger organizations where being SOC 2 compliant is important if you want to close those larger mid-market and enterprise deals.
Do you think you could get those enterprise deals without SOC 2? Like, can you implement your own internal policies?
Yeah, you can definitely get some of those. There might be some deals that would be really hard to get or impossible to get without it. But in some cases you can. I've talked to some founders that have not had it and have been working through getting some deals. And usually what you have to do is just get a custom contract with an attorney, draft that up, get them to be okay with it. So there's extra work. Even if you can get some deals without it, with it, for us, it just makes certain deals really easy. They'll come to you with like these questionnaires and all these requirements on the security side. Sometimes we could just give them our SOC 2 report, and it just cuts down on a ton on the work.
Next, I asked Ruben about the difference between SOC 2 Type 1 and Type 2.
So Type 1 is basically just a lot less in depth, a lot less controls and requirements and compared to Type 2. Type 2 will take a lot longer to get, it'll be a lot more expensive, and there are a lot more controls involved in Type 2, so it's just more in depth. And larger organizations sometimes will want a Type 2.
Which one did you choose and why?
We went with Type 2 because we knew that we were going to go mid-market and enterprise. So we wanted to jump to that. I do know some people that do Type 1. After talking with some auditors and some people that had done it, it just seemed like it was easier and better for us to go straight to Type 2 and not spend all that time on it.
Obviously, cost is a big concern for any startup founder. And so I asked Ruben how much he spent getting SOC 2 compliant. How much did it wind up costing you?
I would say around $40,000 total. I wouldn't say that $40,000 is what it'll cost everybody. That's just including stuff that was maybe unique to us on the technical side, right? So I'm bundling all that in. So it was somewhere around $12,000 for the compliance software that we use that helped cut down on a lot of time, called Vanta. Let's say $15,000 for auditors. They try to hack into your system, tell you all the vulnerabilities for penetration testing included. And then, our time, of course, and probably the rest was development and technical.
Like internal costs, paying your team members and such?
We actually outsourced a ton of that work. So somebody who was helping us, we had a super simple setup on just AWS, EC2, like everything bundled into one server. It's not part of the requirements, but there's some very high level things. They don't dictate like technically you need to do these things. What they say is like you need to have some sort of redundancy, worry about availability and all that stuff. So we went about it a certain way, not just for SOC 2, but also for running our business and scaling.
Yeah, I had heard some estimates, general like 20 to 30,000 all in. And so it makes sense that if you may have had more engineering work to do.
Side,
I could see that pushing it to 40 pretty easily. In addition to money, time is a huge factor, the amount of effort. So I wanted to ask Ruben how long it took Signwell to become SOC 2 compliant.
That also, I think, varies a bit depending on what you have to do. For us, we had to do more technical stuff. So I would say the non-technical stuff, probably about 2.5 weeks or so. And that's pretty fast. I think it helps to use something like the software that we use. That cuts down. There are a lot of different solutions out there nowadays. And then on the technical side, we probably had about 2-ish months of work on top of that. So I don't know, altogether, maybe around 3 months, we were all set. And the way that it works is that you get to a point of where you can start a monitoring period. Then they start monitoring you in the first year. Instead of going an entire year to where they monitor you, you can choose to do just like a short monitoring period, like a 3-month monitoring period, and then get your SOC 2 report. So it's not like you'll be ready in a month or 2 months and then, they audit you or anything like that. You actually have to be ready, start your monitoring period. And then, they'll take like a month and a half to review everything and give you your report.
And that's type 2, right? I've heard estimates like type 1 you could get in a month or two. And then type 2 was more like 3 to 12 months or something. That was kind of a range. I got that off the internet, so take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. Type 1 would be much faster, and that's partly due to what's required. The differences between type 1 and type 2. There are also 5 categories in type 2. So most people just do one category, or a lot of people do one category, which is security. We did a security, availability, and confidentiality. So all 3, so a little bit more work there, even on the policy side, training for everybody. We also bundled in HIPAA compliance at the same time, because there was so much overlap with those 3 categories. It added a little bit of time, but not that much time.
And of course, a question on all of our minds. I wanted to find out from Ruben if all of it was worth it. Now that you're through it and you've spent the money, you spent the time, would you say it was worth it?
Yeah, for us, it has been. Like I said, it's definitely helped us close some bigger deals. It's also just made it easy for other deals that we probably would have gotten, but we would have spent a lot more time doing it.
As we wrapped up the conversation, I was curious if Ruben thought that he would have been able to become compliant without a service like Vanta. So I know that you need to pay a CPA, an accountant, to do the audit, right? There's no way around that. And you need to create the documentation or pay someone to do it. You need to have all the technical work done or pay someone to do it. Aside from that, and I know you used Vanta, the software, this kind of like checklist software that monitors and does all the stuff that you've said. Could you have accomplished it without a Vanta, product like Vanta? Or is it kind of a necessity or maybe a no-brainer at this point to use a service like that, even though you said it was $10,000 or $12,000?
Yeah, so you definitely could have done it. People were doing it before these systems existed. It's similar to like when GDPR came out, we hired somebody that was an expert in that. And it was just a very manual thing. They had a bunch of spreadsheets. They wanted access to systems. So I would imagine it would be the same sort of thing. It would just take longer to do it. I feel like it's kind of a no-brainer if you have the money to do it that way. I'd have a difficult time going without a system like that. Not just because the software they hook into all your systems, they do all the monitoring, they spit out reports, make it faster and easier on that side of things. But they also handle onboarding for employees, offboarding. They give you templates for policies. For us, they recommended auditors and auditors that knew the system. They recommended people for penetration testing, all that stuff. And you can actually ask them questions when you're in the middle of it, like, oh, I don't have an auditor yet, but this is what we're doing. How do you think we should handle it? They'll not try to say, well, you need to talk to an accountant or somebody else. They'll just answer your questions.
Actually helpful. Yeah. And for folks watching, Vanta is the one you used, but there are a lot of them. There's Secure Frame, Drata, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Sprinto, Audit Board, and many others. Awesome. Thanks, Ruben. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks.
SOC 2 compliance is obviously a very big topic, and it would be very difficult to cover all the nuances in a YouTube video like this. That's why at MicroConf, we've created an article all about SOC 2, as well as a checklist that you can reference. If you head to microconf.com and click latest in the top navigation, you will find that article. If SOC 2 is something you're thinking about, you're probably looking to sell to enterprise customers, which can be hard, especially when you're bootstrapped or mostly bootstrapped. Enterprise customers will have a lot of questions that you want to be ready for. And in order to do that and be prepared, check out this next video to make sure you are ready. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you in the next video.